So a game I'm getting increasingly excited for.
Okay, so now where was your starting point of excitement? Can I get specifically how excited you were?
It started off low. This is a series. I'm talking about Mass Effect.
Okay.
This is a series that I played the first one, didn't really do any of the side quests. This is one of the only RPGs where I just went through the storyline. Yeah. I knew Mass Effect 1 was not nearly as good as 2 or 3, as people say.
Sure.
So I'm like, I need to get through 1 so I understand what's happening. So I did the main story wholly through. I beat Mass Effect 1. It was entertaining. I enjoyed myself. Played Mass Effect 2. Can't really get into it. Mass Effect 3 I haven't touched. Okay. However, I have read and watched exposition on all the stories, so I know what's kind of caught up. Mass Effect Andromeda is coming out on the 21st. March 21st. So with that, my excitement is building. That's very soon.
Yeah.
And the whole point of Mass Effect Andromeda is that it takes place after Mass Effect 1, 600 years after Mass Effect 1, in a different galaxy, different universe, whatever. So 2 and 3 aren't even a part of it.
Yeah.
So I already have the basis of 1 under my belt, so I know kind of what's going on.
Sure.
I know the things about the Collectors, I know about the Reavers, I know about Shepard, whatever. So this whole new one, the whole premise of it is that they're going off to find, I believe, just a new place to live, which is cool. That's kind of a good starting point.
Yeah, it's like they're colonizing, they're expanding.
Yeah, and it looks like a lot of fun. It looks like the combat's really good. I assume it's going to have the same Mass Effect feel of Paragon or Renegade. Your choices can somewhat affect the storyline. Sure. This and this and this. There's a lot of exploration. There's these things to do.
You like characters. You don't like characters.
Yeah,
there's like you.
It's a space odyssey. It's in very different location from what I'm playing in Horizon.
Sure.
However, Andromeda, BioWare has released early access to Mass Effect Andromeda. Some review copies, they gave people 10 hours to play. Early access, EA early access, is like 6 hours, maybe 3 to 6 hours to play. And there has been a lot of trouble in the first intro hours to this game.
Yep.
A lot of things that I think have been blown way out of proportion. The most things that you see is that the facial animations are not up to par.
And I've been hearing that like crazy since these early.
That's like the main thing.
That's what I've heard.
The facial animations are not good. And there's a lot of comparison videos of this facial animation versus like The Witcher 3 or even Mass Effect 1 or this or this or this or this. Okay. Sure. That's a point. People say that the storytelling isn't very good. Again, let me just go through all these. They say the storytelling isn't very good. There's graphical issues where there's like tearing. Like there's one scene where someone's holding a gun backwards, things like that. The day one patch that is included in most games has already been downloaded to these early access copies. So what people are playing now won't be affected. Essentially what people are playing now is what other people will play on day one. So that's the game.
Unless they take action, right? Which I don't think they...
The action they would take would be the day one patch that's already included in what people are playing.
Right, so you don't think, based on all this, BioWare would react and do a second day one patch?
No, they have not. Okay. They've said, they went on record and said that's not going to happen in the day one patch.
Okay.
They haven't rolled out that it's not going to be changed in the future. Updates will come after, of course, but for whatever the day one patch is, this is what you get. Now, this doesn't necessarily affect me directly because I'm in the process of going on vacation, then I'm moving. So I don't have time for video games.
Right.
So I'm not going to be able to play Mass Effect until like 2 weeks after launch.
Sure.
So the day one patch doesn't affect me. I'm sure there'll be another patch by then.
Probably. Usually there
maybe even fix that. But I want to say Mass Effect isn't necessarily focused on facial animations. It's not necessarily focused on the highest graphical fidelity. You know, a lot of Mass Effect, especially this new one, comes from the combat and maybe from the storytelling and from the worlds that you visit and the RPG elements.
Sure.
So I think a lot of these things might be nitpicking. Maybe it's earned.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of it is just like, this is something and it's become a meme. So you make a meme out of something and then somebody else tries to top that and it goes in larger and larger and larger and explodes out of popularity to make fun of something. It's like you're in high school again.
Sure. Yeah, it's
people like to make fun of you. And somebody else makes fun of you. And somebody else makes fun.
And then it grows into this giant thing that gets way blown out of proportion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
So I think that's at the base of this. Where I think Mass Effect Andromeda just needs to focus on the combat, focus on the exploration, focus on the things that make Mass Effect, the story, the environment, all these other things, as opposed to the facial animations. and to draw comparisons to the game I'm currently playing, which is Horizon, does not have the best facial animations. Do you agree?
Sometimes it tracks well, sometimes it doesn't track well with what they're actually saying.
So Horizon is an incredible game by all means.
Sure.
I think a lot of people that have played would agree. But that doesn't mean that it's a perfect 10 out of 10 game. There are definitely some graphical issues. There are definitely some screen pop-in. There are definitely some facial animations that don't go all the way. And if I were to make a video out of all the times that happened, put it into a 2-minute segment and post it on Facebook or post it on YouTube and said, look how bad this game is.
Right.
Of course.
It's going to be skewed, right?
Yeah. And that's what a lot of people are doing with Mass Effect.
Perhaps, yeah. And that's the thing. It's like you don't want to write on a blank check and be like, oh, yeah, all these glitches are fine. But it's like I had a conversation with some of my students. We were talking about consumer sovereignty in the economy and how what you choose to buy is like a vote for that company to continue existing. And I said one company, or at least one franchise of video games I don't support anymore is Ubisoft's Assassin's Creed. I don't buy any more Assassin's Creed games.
Ayo.
I stopped after I bought Unity, and Unity literally had game-breaking glitches.
Now that's a good comparison,
right? And
because Mass Effect is not that,
right? And that's what my point is, that there are some games where it's valid to draw terrible criticism, to wreck them with negativity. And I think the way they treated Unity, which from what I understand, they never completely fixed the game. They gave up on fixing the game.
Oh, yeah?
On all the platforms for Unity, because they just had to move on to the next game, because they do yearly releases. Or at least they did.
Syndicate.
So I think that this is a similar thing where you have to judge it on a spectrum. Just because it has problems doesn't mean that it's a bad game. You need to weigh the problems themselves. And I agree with you. I think facial animations and graphical issues, I think that keeps it from being like a very polished game. I don't think you can say that it's polished, right? Like that would be a descriptor I would use for a game that has all of its cutscenes and everything perfect, right?
I mean, Uncharted 4
very
or The
polished.
Last of Us would probably be the benchmark, right? That's like
Super
10 out of
polished.
10, super polished.
Yeah.
Everything's super good like that.
But at the same time, right, like what is this game doing that those games aren't, right?
It's much bigger.
These are much more open-ended.
Mm-hmm.
These are much more exploration-focused. Both of those games, which are very polished, are more on rails than what you have in a Mass Effect game. So to me, the things that I'm hearing are minor and can be addressed in a patch.
Yes.
So I don't think that people should be flipping out. And I went to multiple game news websites today and saw their front page, and it was like all dogging on Mass Effect.
Yeah.
Like that was what everybody was saying. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't get any flack for this, but I think the extent to which they're getting flack is a little exaggerated.
I think it's probably a mistake on BioWare's side to give someone just the first 10 hours. Because
same thing with the Iron Fist thing we were talking about in the last week's
6 episodes.
Right? Like you can't judge it off of the first 10 hours.
Yeah.
You can't judge it off the first 6 episodes.
You can.
We're about ready to.
We're about to. But, I mean, the first 10 hours, you should be able to play a game for half an hour to an hour and decide if you want to play it or not. But with Mass Effect, that still holds true. But I think the main focus of Mass Effect is it's not a 10-hour game. It's a 100-hour game. You're judging it on just 10%.
Right.
So the fact that these people get to play 10 hours of the game, and then some of that's multiplayer as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's even a multiplayer aspect to this. So it divides what can happen on the disc or on the game.
Mm-hmm.
But only playing 10 hours of that, you get, if there's like 10 instances of bad facial animations or bad storytelling or bad graphical issues, and that happens over 10 hours, that's 1 per hour. But if there's only 100 hours and it happens 15 times, that's a much lower rate.
Sure.
So letting them play it for only a small amount of time would then obviously bring the variance up.
Exaggerate it, right?
Or maybe it's literally 10%. Maybe it's that bad. The 10% of the game is going to be bad facial animations and stuff like that.
Yeah, perhaps.
But
again, I feel like those are things that can be addressed with a patch within the first month of the game being released.
You'd hope so.
And I don't know if I'm going to pick this game up right away because I want to beat Uncharted 4. I want to beat Dishonored, the PS4 edition. I want to beat Horizon Zero Dawn. So this is a game I'm going to wait on. So probably by the time I buy this game, this won't be an issue.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see what the ratings get on this once all the embargoes are gone and people can put out their final review of Mass Effect.
Sure.
I've played the whole game. I know how it ends. I've seen everything. I want to see that review.
Yeah,
not
me
the
too.
10-hour review.
Yeah, for sure.
That will be something that will skew my mind based on if I want to get it or not.
Sure.
So
yeah, I agree.
So Mass Effect. That was fun.
Let's move on to our last topic.
Iron Fist.
Netflix's new show came out 3 days ago.
Friday.
2 days ago.
The 18th? The 17th.
Yeah.
March 17th came out, Iron Fist. The 5th Marvel Netflix property. The 4th and last Defender. There was preview episodes, 6 preview episodes that a lot of internet influencers got to see early. And they rated
absolutely negative reviews.
Super low.
Bad.
14% on Rotten Tomatoes when I last checked. Now, I've checked, and it's like an 85% on IMDb.
Yeah.
So it's getting much better ratings now that the whole series is out. And we mentioned that last week. We said, you can't really judge this based on the first 6 episodes. All Marvel shows were started off super slow in the first 6 episodes. I remember reading an article that pointed out like 3 specific detractors that they did not like from this. One was the race of Danny Rand, of how he's a white man that knows martial arts. I think Kung Fu is actually what he calls it.
Right.
I think that's the actual martial arts.
It is. It is. Well, he talks about that in the show.
Yeah. There was an issue where they thought it was ridiculous that Danny Rand, who has only known Kung Fu for 15 years, could teach Connie, the martial arts instructor, a new way to punch. They thought that was absurd because, for whatever reason, they think that she's known martial arts her whole life. I think there's a tint of racism.
That's a dumb point.
There was also an issue that they had where one of the characters became a drug addict, like, through one episode. Like, between one episode and the next episode. And have you seen that yet?
You talking about the business guy?
I'm not sure. It kind of really comes to form. You've only seen the first 4 episodes.
Right.
I've seen
the first 6,
first 7 episodes.
Okay.
So it comes really to fruition around episode 5 or 6, or 6 or 7, something like that. So you might not have seen it yet.
Well, I know there's a character who keeps using cocaine, like, randomly. He has, like, a little pocket thing, and he, like, puts it in his gums.
I don't think that's cocaine.
Then what is that?
I think it's just, like, Oxycontin. Like painkillers.
Okay. Well, I assumed it was cocaine, but I don't think... I kind of thought it was...
in pill form.
Well, no, I don't think he was swallowing it. He was putting it on his gums.
I thought it was a pill.
Okay.
Later, because...
Regardless, he's using some sort of drug.
Yeah, he's using something. So they thought, like, that was ridiculous that he could become an addict through one episode. And I'm watching it, and I'm like... One of the main points of Iron Fist, I guess spoilers if you really don't want to know anything about it, is that there's a new drug in the market in New York that's 100% legal, essentially. It's synthetic cocaine, except it's not made with coca leaves. So it gives you the same buzz as cocaine. It shows you early on an old cocaine or heroin addict uses it, and he's like, this is like the first time. So it's very strong and very addictive, you could assume. So it makes sense that if someone used it, they would become addicted to it very quickly. From what I've seen, I don't know if he's used it or not. But he does have prescription meds.
Okay.
That's what I think he's taking. Prescription meds.
Maybe he is.
Maybe he just keeps it in a little mint, like a Tic Tac case.
Yeah, because that's what it kind of looks like, like a fancy one.
Well, they look like pills, but... What are your thoughts? You've seen the first 4 episodes, so we don't need to spoil anything for you.
Right,
We'll talk about as far as you know.
Yeah.
And then I'll fill in what I remember from those 4 episodes. So spoilers for the first 4 episodes?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think there are any, like, major spoilers in the overall storyline in the first 4 episodes, because really you're just getting you're getting
the origin, right? Yes.
So overall, I can understand why some people complain about the show. I think there's some moments that I just felt were awkward, especially like the kid actors. There was like a scene where they do a flashback to them playing Monopoly, and the acting was absolutely terrible, and I hated it. And I was like, that's pretty bad.
I haven't seen a flashback since then.
I will say I really do enjoy the the combat. Like, I thought, I was thinking, and we've talked about this before, I believe, like, Luke Cage is kind of like a brawler, so is Daredevil to some extent. Right, and then...
Daredevil's a brawler. Luke Cage is like a bulldozer.
Sure.
He really doesn't do anything, just flail his arms, right?
He does, right. He's just really, really big and strong. And this guy is much more precise and more entertaining to watch, the combat. And you mentioned, I think in a tweet, hallway scene.
I love a good hallway scene.
Right.
I love
and
a good hallway fight scene.
And as soon as they pulled out the hatchets, I was like, okay. Triads. I knew they were triads because it's like their thing.
Oh, yeah?
So I was like super excited, but then it ends up, I think this is like spoilers, I guess.
This is episode 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the last episode you watched.
Yeah. There's like, they go through the hallway, then he goes into an elevator because they're like trying to kidnap Joy.
Yep.
And he fights them all in the elevator, but it was so choreographed and it was like slightly slower than it should have been. It looked really bad to me. I was like thinking that it was going to be super cool. And it just looked really bad. Like, to me, it looked super fake and super scripted. Oh. And I know it is scripted, but I don't want to know that, right? Like, when you watch it, you shouldn't be thinking, why are they punching so slow? Like, why is this...
I don't remember that. I think I was probably tweeting in the middle of all that.
About the hallway scene?
The best elevator fight scene, hands down, is from Captain America: Winter Soldier.
Oh, yeah. When there's, like, 10 of them?
Yeah. The Russo brothers, who directed that, are very good at doing up-close combat, like close camera angle combat.
Yeah, I think so.
The director for this, who I can't remember right now, there was some really interesting directorial camera angles when they're doing the hallway fight scene for this one, where they're doing even like split cameras. There was a split screen between him and Joy where Joy punched somebody. Yeah. And I'm like, that's interesting. I haven't seen something like that before. This one was not a single take like I like from Daredevil, and I think that works probably for the best for this, because Daredevil, the reason they do a single take is to show his exhaustion, to show, like, you can get physically exhausted just watching that. You're like, oh my gosh, this is still going on. Like, there's so many things for me to focus on. I'm actually getting kind of tired watching that. It might be subconscious, but it's part of it. That's why they do long takes.
Sure.
This one, it has quick cuts with some long, drawn-out combat, and that's because... they want you to focus specifically on the fight and what's happening, much like Iron Fist is doing, much like Danny Rand. He is focusing one person at a time. He's a focused mind. He's a focused fighter. Yeah. So there's a reason for those directorial things, which I actually found very interesting. Yeah. What I didn't know about Danny Rand, and you find out in episode 2, he gets his Iron Fist power by like taking damage.
Yeah, well, he gets more focused as he takes damage.
Kind of like Zarya from Overwatch. Yeah. Like, the more he takes, then the more he can use the Iron Fist. Yeah. But then the Iron Fist is kind of like an expulsion of all of his chi.
Yeah. So, like, he was, again, spoilers for, like, the second and third episode, I guess. Yeah. He's, like, in a
straitjacket.
A straitjacket in this insane asylum, and essentially they're trying to kill him. And these like...
See, I didn't know if they were trying to kill him or not.
I think they were.
It looked like it was, but then the guard came back, like, 30 seconds
Well, I think
later.
he was expecting him to be dead.
Oh, maybe.
But they all start, like, beating on him in the straitjacket, and you can see on his face he's getting, like... He's not reacting like you think he would be reacting.
He's
like
calmer.
It almost looks like he's getting more focused and more calmer and, like, almost, like, glad that they're doing it. And it kind of breaks him through the drugs. So he's been on, like, all these psychoactive drugs that are keeping him from... forming his chi or whatever. Yeah. And from all the beating he takes, he like gets his chi back and he just destroys all the guys, and the jacket comes off and he's like ready to go, and he punches through a door, which was pretty cool.
That's the first time you really get to see the Iron Fist.
Yeah.
Fist.
Which I was ready for at that point. I was like, I want to see the super part of this guy. Which I like Danny Rand. I think you told me to go into it looking like it's a comedy. Yeah. Which I haven't really laughed that much. But I really do like Danny Rand's character because I think he's like a light character. Yeah. He doesn't take things super seriously. He's not like a dark character.
He's not a Daredevil.
Right? I'm glad that he's not like brooding or anything like that. I just, he just seems like a good guy. I don't know.
I really would have liked. We'll probably talk more about this once we have both finished the whole series. But he spent 15 years in Kunlun. To train and to become a monk and everything. Sure. And he left for his own reasons. But I really would like to see some contrast between that. I really would like to see him like super hyperactive and kind of loud and kind of like just kind of like hyperactive. But then at the same time he can then like focus. So it's like two contrasting personalities. So like kind of the rich spoiled boy, which has pretty much gone away because he hasn't done that for 15 years. But when he comes back, I really want him to be like wisecracking, like talks really fast, kind of like you would expect from a Spider-Man. You know, someone that's just always talking and going like that.
Or even like an Iron Man.
Or Iron Man that has a lot of energy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when he fights very calmly.
Right. And he can like bring it in at any point.
Yeah.
And just like meditate or like be centered.
I really would have liked that.
Yeah.
The comedy, I don't know if Finn Jones has a flair for comedy. I don't know if it's timing or his. So he talks very quietly.
Yeah, he does.
Very mellow.
He's very like peaceful, like all the time.
Yeah. So I really would have liked contrast to that.
Mm-hmm.
I would like a time where he can be peaceful and we can tone it down. But I also want a time when he can go all out, like and do comedy and stuff like that. I think that's the one thing that I'm missing from this that I really like. What I've liked so far in the evolution of the show is that the first couple episodes, it's very personal to him. He's kind of finding about himself, whereas like Daredevil is always about protecting the city. Jessica Jones is personal for the whole time. Luke Cage kind of starts off personal, kind of starts off protecting Harlem, you know. This one evolves past his personal desires and wants, and it goes to a more citywide whatever.
Sure.
Or
which I haven't seen a whole lot of that yet.
Yeah, you haven't seen that yet.
I just saw him take over the company.
But it is there.
Yeah. I don't know.
So it's fun to see. Like, this is kind of something that you needed a origin for. It does kind of slow in the beginning. It's hard. I've seen the first 6 episodes. In episode 6, there's this real cool, like, I'm called like a boss battle. Where he goes up against, like, different tiered enemies. Like, different tiered enemies in different combat situations. And they're all very different. And I'm like, this is, like, straight out of a comic book. This is awesome.
Yeah.
And I don't understand how someone can watch that, which is in episode 6, and be like, this show sucks. Because I thought it was really awesome that they're all so vastly different from each other.
So I guess this kind of boils down to my big question.
Okay.
That I think a lot of people might be asking who aren't super huge Marvel fans but still like it. Should people watch Iron Fist based off what we've seen so far?
First of all, yeah, I think it's awesome. I think it is par for the course for these Marvel shows. I'll know 100% once I've seen all 13 episodes. It doesn't start off as fast as Daredevil Season 1 or Season 2. Probably faster than Jessica Jones. Jessica Jones didn't have really any combat to like the last 2 episodes.
Sure.
So there wasn't anything there. Luke Cage was so up and down the whole time.
Yeah.
This one, I'd much rather watch the first 7 episodes again than watch Luke Cage. So if you like Luke Cage for the action or anything like that, I mean, there are a lot of people like Luke Cage. It was one of the highest rated Marvel shows.
Sure.
Yeah, Iron Fist is awesome. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, so you would suggest people don't listen to the first reviews of it, the 14% and stuff, and that your recommendation would be to watch it.
Yeah, especially if you already have Netflix.
Right. Me too. And that's my thoughts too, is that I've really enjoyed it so far. I don't really see where people are coming from. Yeah, there's like some corny acting from especially the kid actors, which is what do you expect, right?
Literally only one scene with the kid actors.
Right, so far.
Since episode 7.
Okay.
Like, I haven't seen them.
Yeah, so really that was the only real cringe moment. There's I don't know a lot about Iron Fist in the comics, so I don't know like his actual story in there. It is a little bit awkward, like people not believing him, and he uses all these Chinese words, and like he's been to this place, and there's like a lot of tension in like people believing him and things and what he says, and it seems a little ridiculous, but this is a superhero show, so I totally think it's fine.
You gotta take
some step backs from reality and realize this is a comic book show.
Step back from reality. Yo, there goes gravity.
Yep. So anyways, that's kind of my thought. Those are my thoughts on it. Can't wait to finish it.
So far it's been ramping up. There are really some interesting conflicts that happen. There's some twists and turns that I did not expect to happen that just happened in the last episode.
Sure.
I really want to discuss the characters more in depth once we get to the end.
Yeah, sure. And I'm sure we will.
So, whatever happens, whenever we record next, hopefully we'll both... I think next time we record, we can have the whole series watched.
I think so too. I think I'll have it done by then.
Cool. So more in-depth discussion on Iron Fist
on our next episode. Week, yeah.
And if you want to catch our next episode as soon as it's released, follow us on Twitter at UP Gamers Podcast. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, although we don't post podcast episodes on Twitch. True. We will be streaming when Orisa comes out on the PS4.
Yep.
So that'll be this Tuesday, probably around 7:30 or 8. So hang out with both of us. Come watch the stream.
Yeah.
You can follow us on SoundCloud, iTunes, Stitcher, all the other podcast services if you want to get the most recent episodes, or go through our most popular episodes.
Yeah. You can find usually a conglomeration of the majority of things that we make all on our website at underpaidgamers.com.
That's true.
And
if you'd like to email us,
yep,
ask us a question, you can email us at underpaidgamerspodcast@gmail.com.
Or send us a tweet.
Or a tweet.
Tweet
which is the most direct way.
It is the most direct way. So yeah, thanks for watching, you guys, or listening, or however you saw us.
We're on YouTube too.
Yeah, so they could be watching us on YouTube right now.
That's right. Right now.
Right now. So thanks for listening. We'll see you guys next time.
Peace.